Did you get called selfish? Stings a bit, doesn't it? That seems to be one of those insults that carries this really negative connotation. I know there was a period in my life where if I had to take any insult a person could give me and, I don't know, number them from the most mild to the worst one I could get, selfish was up there. Selfish was one of those ones that cuts deep. Makes you feel awful. Makes you feel guilty. Well, no more. We're done with that, all right? We are reclaiming the word selfish. We're going to talk about this today. We're going to talk about what being selfish really is, whether or not it's really as bad as society has made it out to be. And we're going to discuss some ways that you can reclaim selfishness and make this a positive thing and make this a catalyst for your own personal growth and development. All right? Stay tuned. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are discussing selfishness today. This is one of those words that carries so much negative weight. It's one of those words that has such a negative connotation. It's something that you never want to be characterized as. It's something that you feel immensely guilty and awful about if someone calls you it. But I think sometimes we forget that being selfish can actually be a really good thing. There are a lot of benefits to being selfish. Now, I'm not saying you should be selfish all the time. There are benefits to caring about the wants and needs of people around you, obviously. But it's not something that you need to avoid being 100% of the time. There's a lot of benefits to tapping into selfishness and using it as a resource when you need it. Because what is selfishness, really? Selfishness is the opposite of selflessness. And what is selflessness? Selflessness is putting the needs and wants of other people ahead of your own, essentially. It's prioritizing the needs of the people around you, sometimes to the detriment and neglect of your own needs. And when you hear that, I hope you're taking a second to think, well, it's good to help other people. It's good to care about their needs. It's good to care about their wants. But I'm also hearing that this means kind of neglecting and deprioritizing what I need and what I want. And I think this is where we tend to get it wrong. Being selfish is often associated with traits like being greedy, being inconsiderate, and being solely focused on your own personal gain. But that isn't all that it is. I mean, in some cases it can be, but that's not what we're talking about today. In some cases, it can be a really positive thing, and I think we, as a collective, have a hard time letting go of those negative traits associated with selfishness, and that's kind of the lens that we always view it through. And it needs to be something that we start shifting our mindset about, because I don't know about you, but I certainly don't want to be putting my own needs and wants and goals on the back burner and focusing all of my energy on just the people outside of me. In order for you to feel your best, in order for you to do your best, in order for you to continue to develop and grow as a person, it's going to require you to be selfish from time to time. You're going to have to focus on improving yourself and focusing on what you need and what you want and what you're working towards. These needs to be things that are on your radar some of the time, and that requires you to be selfish. I'm going to give you some examples to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about and how there can be certain scenarios in which being selfish is a bit of a positive thing. Matthew McConaughey, in his discussion with Mark Hyman about selfishness, described an example in which selfishness can be a positive thing. He described selfishness as delayed gratification and talked through an example in which you are out on the street and you have the opportunity to steal somebody's wallet. Now, the thing that would produce instant gratification for you would be to steal a person's wallet. But in order to get delayed gratification and in order to get the greatest benefit for you, your action is actually going to not be to steal the wallet. Because in you not stealing the wallet, you're protecting yourself from the potential fear and potential consequences of your actions. And so when we think about it this way, you taking the action of not stealing somebody's wallet is actually the more selfish action because it produces the greatest benefit to you. So do you see how in that example, being selfish is actually a positive thing? Another example that describes why we need to be a little bit more selfish comes from a saying that I think we often hear, which is, you can't pour from an empty cup. And that saying could not be more true. If you are giving 100% of your energy and 100% of your time to everybody else around you and everybody else's needs and neglecting or forgetting to address your own, what happens is that the resources and the ability that you have to pour into somebody else and give to somebody else is going to eventually run out. You are not an infinite supply of resources to give if you do not take time to replenish those resources. You need to take the time to prioritize your own needs and to take care of yourself in order to show up as a better version of you, in order to be able to do more to the people around you. If you want to be a good parent, a good employee, a good sibling, a good partner, you need to take the time to take care of yourself first, which is going to allow you to bring more to the table. It's going to allow you to be better in these roles because you have more to give, because you've taken the time to cultivate that for yourself. You have more resources to share with everybody else. And this goes for your own development and education as well. You not taking time to be selfish in a sense of prioritizing your goals and your education and the things that you want to achieve and the things that you need to do to kind of better yourself along the way. If you don't take the time to be selfish in those moments and focus on the steps that you need to take in order to reach your goals, you're not going to be able to bring as much to the people around you. You're not going to be able to have as big of an impact on the world around you because you're just not going to have as much to give because you haven't taken the time to build that foundation for yourself. So I'm going to give you an example that I heard from another YouTuber. I'll put their handle down here. They made a great analogy about this. So if you had a chicken and you decided to do what would be characterized as the selfless thing, which is to give all of the eggs that you receive from that chicken away to everybody else, that would be seen as the altruistic, selfless thing to do. You're giving away everything that you have. You're giving all of your eggs to the people in the village or wherever you have this chicken. However, if you do the selfish thing and you keep those eggs for yourself and you raise chicks from them, down the line, instead of having an impact of only 1 egg per day from this one individual chicken, you're able to have tens, hundreds more chickens from the eggs that you have kept and raised, which now allows you to give so much more to the people around you. You have exponentially more eggs to distribute to the town. So this works the same way when it comes to the impact that you're able to have on the world, just in general, whether it's with your work, whether it's with your family, on social media, wherever you want to create change and make an impact and strive for better and strive to create something, strive to leave your mark on this world. Your ability to do so is going to be very limited if you don't take the time to cultivate that for yourself and be selfish for a little while. That time is essential for you to lay the groundwork and build yourself up and create yourself into the person that you want to be so that you're giving your best self to everybody else, so that you're showing up in a way that you truly want to, not just scraping by on whatever you have left because you've given everything of yourself to everybody else. And along with our ability to just improve ourselves as human beings, we are inherently a little bit selfish. It's necessary for our own survival. Things like you eating and drinking and sleeping, all of these things that we do for ourselves, for our own survival, technically selfish, technically focused on our own needs and wants, right? But would it be a positive thing for you to just neglect all of those things? No, absolutely not. It would not. If you didn't prioritize your own nutrition and hydration and sleep, you would be a shell of the person that you could be. So similar to putting the energy into your own development, your own personal growth, your own education, You need to put the time into addressing your own basic needs. I think we all know that. I think we all know if you are running on terrible sleep for several nights on end, if you're eating a really shit diet, or if you're dehydrated, it's not as fun to go around and do things and show up and be the person that you want to be. It's just not, it's not as doable. You don't have the energy. You don't feel good. So do you see how in that case as well, you need to be a little bit selfish. You need to prioritize your needs. And it's things like that that we need to start keeping in mind as we shift our perception of what selfishness is. Because we tend to want to avoid doing it just because of this kind of subconscious connotation that we have that it's a negative trait, that you being selfish is a bad thing. And we forget all these elements where selfishness is not only good, but necessary. So that's my goal for today. My goal in this discussion is for you to start reclaiming selfishness as something that can be a positive thing, something that can be a tool, something that you can use to better yourself and to show up better for the people around you. Being selfish will actually allow you to be more selfless down the line. You are going to be able to have a much greater impact down the line if you take that time to be selfish first. Okay? So we're getting rid of that negative connotation. We're getting rid of this notion that being selfish is purely a bad thing. Okay? It's not. It has good things. It has its time. It has its moments where we need to pull that tool out of our toolkit and we need to use it. Okay? So I'm going to go over some steps. I'm going to go over some things that you can do to start shifting that perspective for yourself and improve your comfort a little bit in stepping into your selfishness, stepping into that kind of power of taking care of your own needs and taking care of your own wants and making yourself a priority. So the first thing is to think of yourself as another person that you are taking care of. This is a really helpful example for someone who really struggles with the notion of being selfish, for someone who sees being selfless as kind of the ultimate thing to be revered, as the thing that you need to be, someone who feels like they need to give everything they have to everybody else. This is a really great way to kind of shift your mindset and make it a little bit more approachable. So instead of thinking that you're doing all of these things just for yourself, you can think of them in terms of you doing these things for this person outside of you, thinking of yourself as another person that you are in charge of protecting, you are in charge of taking care of, you're in charge of nurturing and educating and developing. It's your job to bring this person's potential to the forefront and make them everything that they have the potential to be. You could also think of this as playing a video game, and your ultimate goal is to level up the character in that game. You're the character, in case you didn't notice. Treat yourself like the main character of that game. And make that your goal. Make that your goal to better yourself and come back stronger so that you can take on those bigger challenges. You can have that bigger impact. You can hit those bigger goals further on in the game. You're not going to get stuck at level 1 because you've given away all your resources and given away all your time and haven't invested in your own personal growth. The second thing that I want you to do is to start viewing selfishness as a form of delayed selflessness. So instead of seeing it as I'm being selfish, it's a bad thing, that's the end of it, think of it in terms of the chicken example, where you being selfish in the moment allows you to bring so much more to the table down the line. So it's just like tapping into that delayed gratification where you are putting in the work now and doing the hard thing now in order to get the reward and get the payoff later down the line. In this case, the payoff is the ability to be selfless in a bigger, more impactful way. You're going to be able to bring a lot more to the table when you take the time to be selfish initially and work towards something bigger than what you would be able to do early on. Because if you just focused on being selfless and being selfless alone, you are not allowing yourself to grow. You're not allowing yourself to keep laying that foundation. Whatever you have to begin with is kind of where you're stuck. You're not going to have anything more to give than what was initially there, kind of ground level. You need to keep building onto that. You need to keep creating more and working towards bettering yourself so that there's more to give. Like I said before, can't pour from an empty cup. You got to keep working to refill that cup every so often. The third thing that I want you to do, and I know this is easier said than done, but I want you to start saying no more than you say yes. I think a lot of us, especially anybody who is prone to being a people pleaser, is very used to just saying yes to everything. Picking up anything that people need help with, doing anything that people throw at them, giving their time away time and time again to anybody that asks for it, essentially, because you don't want to be seen as the bad guy. You don't want to let anybody down. You don't want anybody to think negatively about you. And so you treat your time as if it's this infinite resource. You treat your energy as if it's this infinite resource, and you keep giving it away to everybody else without taking any time to replenish yourself and to rest and to focus on what you need to do. A quote that I really love, I think it was Mel Robbins who said this, is that a no to someone else is a yes to yourself. What this means essentially is that you being willing to say no more often is going to give you the space and the bandwidth and the time to invest in the things that you want to focus on. It's going to allow you to put more of yourself in the things that matter so you can have a greater impact in those areas where you want to have a greater impact. You can work on yourself so that you can bring a better version of you to the table. You're not going to be inundated with all of these other smaller tasks that don't mean as much to you, that aren't on the path that you want to take, that are not helping you get to your goals. You're not kind of just sludging through the mud of all these things you've agreed to that you don't really want to do. So work on starting to say no to the things that are not aligned with where you're trying to go and who you're trying to be and the impact that you're trying to make. And you can start small, because I know it can be kind of scary to say no to people, and I always hear advice about saying no and setting boundaries and things like that, but it's scary. It takes time, okay? I'm not an expert at it. I'm learning to do this a little bit more, just like the rest of you. And the best advice I ever heard on this topic was to start small. And so this doesn't even have to be on the topic of turning down something somebody's asking you to do initially. It can be as simple as, let's say you're having a discussion with a friend or a partner about what to have for dinner, and they throw something out there that you don't actually really like all that much, nor do you want. Don't say yes, just to protect their feelings and white knuckle through it. Say no. Start with something like that. If you mess it up one or two times here and there, you panic and you say yes when you don't want to say yes, don't beat yourself up, okay? This is a constant learning process. This is not going to be something that you just flip a switch overnight and suddenly you are someone who says no whenever they want to say no and you set perfect boundaries. That doesn't happen, okay? We're human. It's going to take us time to integrate new patterns and to learn new behaviors, especially when they're ones that cause us a lot of stress. So just go easy on yourself with this one. Ease into it, but be willing to kind of push yourself slowly out of your comfort zone and be a little bit more mindful of saying no more often than you currently do and turning down the things that really are not going to serve you. The more that you do it, the easier that it's going to get, and you will eventually get to a point where being able to say no to those other things that you don't want to do is going to feel a lot less scary. It's going to come with a lot less guilt, and you're going to be able to do it without thinking so much about it and worrying so much about it and ruminating after the fact. Okay? So give yourself patience and grace with this one, but take the steps to start slowly working towards it. All right? That's what I have for you today. We are reclaiming selfishness, okay? This is no longer a fully negative, fully awful, guilt-producing, shame-producing, terrible, no good, bad thing, okay? That's not what it is. Selfishness is a tool, and it's one that needs to be used every so often in order to be the best version of yourself, okay? Do not be afraid to pull this tool out of your toolkit and use it when it is warranted, all right? And if you're still here, Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you next time at the Mindset Gym. If you like the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support allows this show to reach even more amazing people just like you, and it means the absolute world to me. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.